Hello, everybody. I'm Joyanne Haigh. We welcome our viewers and listeners in Barbados and around the world to another edition of Face It and Fix It on CBC TV 8, CBC Barbados Facebook and YouTube, and of course Q100.7 FM radio. Now, before I introduce my guests, a couple of days ago, we had some concerns from the people of Boscobel, and I just want to share this information with the Barbados Water Authority. I did reach out to the general manager, but unfortunately fortunately for him, he is on vacation, and so we're asking the Barbados Water Authority to please see what you can do for the good people of Boscobel. Outside is really hot, and it's been days since they've had some water or even seen a tanker. Now today we seek understanding of the home isolation facility and just how it works. We've heard your concerns, and joining us today will be specialist emergency physician and head of home isolation facilities, none other than Dr. Brian Charles. And later in the show, how is the organization with responsibility of the case of older persons handling this pandemic? Today, we'll touch base with the president of the Barbados Association of Retired Persons, Ms. MARILYN Bowen Rice. Ms. MARILYN Rice Bowen. And would it be Face It and Fix It if we did not continue to address your concerns regarding the recent request for a rate increase from the Barbados Light and Power? And to help us today to navigate how we can lower our electricity bills during this pandemic, if they get the increase, is our friend, Mr. Nathan Hart. He is an engineer with the Barbados National Oil, and he will join us today to help us out on how we can lower those bills. So we want you to call us on 228-5563 or 228-5562. If you want to send us a WhatsApp message, it's 228-5562. Or you can join us on Facebook by typing in CBC Barbados, and you can leave your comments there. Now, please, you don't have to comment on the topics. We would like you to, but if there's something else on your mind that you want to share with us, please feel free to send us a message or to call. Coming up after the break, Dr. Brian Charles. Welcome back to Face It and Fix It. Joining us right now on our first segment is Dr. Brian Charles, specialist emergency physician and head of home isolation facilities. He's no stranger to the show, as you all know. Welcome, Dr. Charles.
Good morning. Welcome, Joe. Good morning, Barbados. Welcome.
Welcome. How are you doing? Just so I can ask, because I know it's been stressful for you.
Yeah, it's a difficult time. We're all managing. We're prepared for making preparations, so we're just trying to get all the systems rolling and getting them, to the best of our abilities with the limited resources.
Okay. Well, my first question to you before I jump into all the logistics about home isolation, who qualifies for home isolation? Because I'm getting calls from people in isolation facilities and they just want to go home. They said, I want to continue isolating at home. Walk us through the procedure.
Right. So the procedure, we designed a whole procedure for home and home isolation, and we've been able to accelerate it because of the high numbers of COVID positive cases that we have realized. So persons who are in isolation, which means an isolation, we should need to make this distinction. Isolation means that you have a COVID positive test. Quarantine means that when you're being put aside or waiting to see change from negative to positive because you have been in contact with someone close. So persons who have been isolated and they wish to isolate at home, then we need to do an assessment circumstance to make sure that it is safe for the person, safe for the environment, safe for anyone in the community, and to be secure that they breached or they would have difficulty reaching their isolated facilities.
So before you go, when you say assess them, you're going to assess them away from home and then send them back home, or the assessment will be done at their home?
Question. Two assessments. There's the health assessment, which means that the person is interviewed. We will interview the person to make sure that they're medically suitable to isolate at home. So persons who are vaccinated and persons who have very low community and are at low risk, those are the persons that you want out in the community to isolate home. If you are unvaccinated or if you have comorbidities like diabetes and hypertension, that's a high risk and you can deteriorate very quickly. We would not want you to be, and if you deteriorate, then we have to be scrambling for traction, for etc., etc. So if you are low risk, you can be allowed at home to isolate. But there's a second part. So it's the personal medical assessment and then the home facility. So we want to make sure that your house, if you live alone, that's ideal. But if you're alone, that you can care for yourself, hygiene-wise, nutrition-wise, and socially, that there's no communication between yourself and someone else in the home, or the communication. So that's where the assessment has to happen. There's a health assessment and a home assessment.
Okay. So let's just say I qualify, I'm home, and it's day one, day two. Do you put a band on my ankle or my wrist? What's the first step, and then what color? Okay, is it color coded for isolation and for quarantine?
Good. So for isolation, which is the part that I deal with, if you are eligible medically for isolation and your home and facilities are okay for isolation, we move from a central isolation facility to the community home isolation program. Once you have been deemed to be eligible for this, we then apply a security bracelet onto your ankle, or rather, just to make it simple, and this ankle monitors your movements. It allows us to know that are within the confines of the space that we have assessed. We wouldn't want someone to be home isolated and going to the shop, going to the neighbors, or going, outside. The isolation means isolation, so you can keep to yourself. We don't do the bands or the bracelets you would have known in the previous indication for quarantine, like when you come in or anything like that. The security is a bracelet that we apply more by GPS. And I will tell you that is the ideal. There are some people who are home isolated under the program, not with any bracelets, but still we would like to have as many secured by this as well, and that we're trying to do.
Oh, okay. So the person is at home, and how do you monitor them? Yes, the GPS tracking, but how do you physically then monitor them? How do you know? Is there somebody gonna just a doctor visit every once in a while, or a call, a WhatsApp video chat? What are we doing? Mm-hmm.
No. So if you are in the home isolation at your home, then there are two ways of you monitoring. The first way, which is the one that I prefer, is that persons take responsibility for their health. If you find that you are at home, we know that you're COVID positive and that your symptoms are now escalating or you are developing symptoms, you will responsibility to us. Don't wait for us to call. Don't wait for us to come. You are at home. Something is not right. Let us know. And the way is by calling a special home quarantine isolation hotline. And let me give you that number, and I'll give it to you at the end again. It's 536-1800. Now again,
that's only for if you are in isolation, determine that you are been cleared for isolation, but you're starting to feel ill. Not for people who just feel ill and did not have a COVID test, but feel like if they have COVID.
Correct.
Okay, that we have to be clear because you don't want to cross the lines.
If you want to know where the vaccination center is, don't call me. Want to know if you have to go for a test, don't call that hotline if you want this COVID and the symptoms of COVID, etc., etc. Just that hotline is specifically dedicated to the community who are quarantining or for isolation. 536-00. Now, so that's the personal responsibility for reporting if you get ill. The other thing that we do is that we have a team of doctors now who will go intermittently or who will pop in at your residence just to see if you're there. Make sure that you're good and that you are isolating. However, I will say that there are some people who have already passed the 10 days of isolation and have not had a contact, and that's because of how sudden the explosion was. At the end of your day's isolation, call the number that I just gave, and then we will get hold of you and we will discharge you from isolation.
So to backtrack a little bit with one of the questions, when you say you're going to go in and assess the home, who goes in? The officers go in to make sure, because imagine I'm not living, say, alone, but I have, say, 2-3 bathrooms. Can I then qualify? And then we're going to talk about how we separate the COVID patient from the others if the home is then suitable for all of the family to stay in. Who goes to the house first before, who checks out to see if the information is true, that you have 2 bedrooms or 2 bathrooms, etc.? Who does that?
So we have a team, home assessors, that have been trained in doing this. They've been trained, they're paramedical persons, so they have some knowledge of the disease itself quite well, and they have some idea of the social requirements for home isolation. So they make a physical visit to the property, have a look to see what's available inside. 2 bathrooms and 1 can be kept for that person who is isolating or quarantining. Then if there's a bedroom that the person can stay in and not have to cross anyone else, then that's ideal as well. If you have a separation between home and your neighbor, so you're not close, that is good as well. So I know we have some neighborhoods that are housed next to each other, very close. Those will not be suited for home isolation.
So if I'm there and say my sisters are in another room and I have my own bathroom, and for me to get a meal and washing up after me, who does all of that? The utensils, and do you show people how to do it safely?
Yes, right. We advise persons do not mix utensils, and that so you would have asked your utensils for your use if you're in quarantine or isolation, and that when they are to be washed and cleaned, the persons who's doing that is advised on how to go about that. The whole process involved in this, and this is just to keep persons at home safe. Now, if you have a multi-person home where one person is isolated, and I know you wanted to mention this, but I really do not want to forget, and others are not positive and hence are in quarantine, they should not mix. And we actually, if we have those environments, we try to take the positive person out of the environment if it's okay, or take the negative people out of that and put them there so that they're not at risk of exposure. It doesn't happen all the time, but we try our best to do that. So we separate the positives from the people who are not positive or not yet positive.
So if I want to go outside in my backyard, because I would imagine fresh air, sunshine, some of the ingredients we will need in order to heal better. And how can I do that safely? And then my neighbors know, wait, Joanne got COVID and she in the backyard, you know, that type of thing. Because, you know, news spreads fast. They ain't no secret no more. It's almost like somebody, you know, has or had COVID. So the neighbors see me there sunbathing or just trying to get a little fresh air. You know, how can is it recommended? Can I go outside to get fresh air if I'm at home isolating?
Oh yes, absolutely. Fresh air, little exercise, and these people who are home isolating are minimal risk, low, and relatively well, so they can do exercise. They can be outside. If you have the bracelet allows a fence around your location. So if you keep within that fence, you're fine. And geofence is just a word that means that electronically we know where you are. And if you step outside of that boundary, if you step outside of that space that you're supposed to be in, we who are monitoring you will know that you have breached. And so, yes, we encourage you to be outside. If you're positive, you know, and you're outside, that's a good thing. Your neighbors know, well, you know, we can't do anything about that, but you have to keep within that confine.
Well, it's probably good for them to know. I think we're at a stage now, it's nothing to hide. Why hide it? Actually, if you tell your neighbors, you probably end up getting some help. They don't have to come over to you, but they might be able to put something over the fence safely for you, and things like that. So I think it's something that we shouldn't hide. Now, I want to ask you about the viral loads for isolated persons if they're in isolation. The decision is also based on viral loads, because if it means that your risk is lower of spreading, because you know sometimes you're allowed to go home even though you're positive because there's not enough viral load in you to make anyone sick. Is that one of the things that we look at?
Sort of. Yeah, sort of. So let me try to explain the science of the virus, especially Delta. We're all in Delta land right now. So the virus, when you first get infected, which means when the virus first comes in, it takes about 2 to 3 days before it can really establish itself and then start to become in such numbers that it spreads. That is what is called a viral load. So the larger the number of viral particles in your body, the more likely you are to spread. So the viral load comes up from 0 to 3 days to 5 days when it's most contagious. And then for the vaccinated person, that drops right that you're not spreading anymore. For the unvaccinated person, it continues to about 8 to 10 days. So we established the way of doing our isolation as if you get the virus, 10 days afterwards, you should stay in isolation. Because after that 10 days, you are not going to spread the virus anymore. And this is something that is important that the public should know, that people in isolation should stay away from everyone else between the time of the test or the time of their symptoms and 10 days. After 10 days, they are okay to go out, go to work, go into the public. Because even though they may still be positive, they are not a risk to anyone else. And that's important because we're getting persons who are saying that they must go back for a second test to make sure they don't have the virus anymore. That's not true. That's not needed. 10 days after your first or after your test, you are not transmissible anymore. Unless you have an issue like with low response and persons who have immune disease.
All right, we're going to have to take a quick break right now, and we're going to come back more with Dr. Charles. Welcome back to Face It and Fix It. We're speaking with Dr. Brian Charles, specialist emergency physician and the head of home isolation facilities. And we were discussing about persons in isolation and the duration of the time that they can be and when they're free of the virus. But I have a quick question for you before we move on to the next question. If that is so, why do we hear of persons in isolation at Harrison's Point for over all this time, because it exceeds? And is it that they're there because it's not necessarily COVID that they're fighting, but the other underlying issues that might have sort of woken up as a result of COVID? Because you hear about people in isolation for like 2-3 weeks or still in ICU,
yeah.
Primary care. Is that it? Do they still have COVID?
Yes, they do. They do. So remember, there's a small subset of persons who will get seriously ill and need an ICU admission and get very ill. Those persons, the virus has essentially taken over many organs and caused multi-symptom failure. And they still do have COVID in them. They still are transmissible. And they need intensive care. Persons in isolation, the prerequisite of being eligible for isolation is have to be low risk. So if you're vaccinated, if you have no comorbidities, and you are asymptomatic or very mild symptoms, then you can go into isolation. Those are the persons that the virus will finish, whatever it has to do, within 10 days. Mm-hmm. Persons, on the other hand, who have risk, and we risk stratify the persons within who catch COVID, and we can identify who are likely to get very sick. And those are the persons who have COVID for longer periods of time and shed for longer time.
And we would not want to obviously home isolate those persons. We would not. So we talked about the patient. Now let's talk about the members of the family now who maybe they have to go to work. Is there a list of do's and don'ts for them when your family member, your sister is at home, but you work at a bank, you work at CBC, you know, the risks, are high, I would imagine, if you don't follow the rules. So do we have something for them that they can sort of make sure that they don't come into contact and abide by the rules?
Yeah, so the first thing, two things there. The first thing is that if you are a primary contact, meaning that if someone is in your home positive and you also live there, you are a primary contact, you now have to quarantine. So you have to wait for 5 days while in quarantine to get your test so that we will know that you are not a risk to yourself or anyone in the community. You have to make sure you separate those persons from quarantine or isolation. If they are there, that's why I said, I made a point earlier that we try to keep, well, if you have a household, we look at the global picture. The virus is one such that it's so transmissible that if you have one person in a household, it is very unlikely that the others will not get infected. I mean, I've had quite a few households persons who are vaccinated don't get infected, but probably they are infected but have very low viral loads. So the infection that the vaccination person gets is lower than persons who are unvaccinated. So when we test, we may not be catching them, but they are unlikely to be transmitting or shedding to anyone else. So if you are at home in quarantine, please do not go out. You can't go to work. You can't go to CBC or the bank or the supermarket, as you just said. You have to stay. So, separated.
But you can have then a family member in isolation and one in quarantine under the same house, because if it is, and then that person may start to feel a little now waiting for a test, but has not gone back the results, but more or less have to pick up the same practice as the person in isolation. If your house is big enough, stay in a room. Make sure you don't come into contact with each other. But I want to say this about the vaccine, though. I know of a family, a baby was positive, baby caught from the nursery, and mommy obviously has to hold the baby. Granny was helping to hold the baby, the sisters, the aunts. Everybody was around this baby waiting for this child to be picked up. The mom had to go to isolation. Do you know that they were tested and then tested again, second test, and where some of them should have been positive. Some of them took the AstraZeneca, some took Pfizer, and everybody had the choice. But I said that to say this, the vaccine worked for this family. And they are adamant that if they did not get a vaccination, imagine a mother who has to hold her baby and stop the child from crying because the child had symptoms, fever. The child was not vaccinated, obviously, because we don't vaccinate babies. And the child was being passed around to the family because you were trying to give mommy a break. So somebody else will hold the child, and they wore a mask, but not all the time. And I just wanted to share that because if you didn't really believe that the vaccine is working, that's proof right there, firsthand, because they're my friends, and I know exactly what happened there. Yeah. So,
you raised
go on.
Joyanne. Good points. Firstly, the children are not protected, so we have to protect them by getting vaccinated. And secondly, that when you are vaccinated, less likely to catch and less likely to transmit. Two very good points that need to be emphasized.
And I'm glad that you went there because I am so tired trying to explain to some people from the time you say lowering your risk, lowering the risk of getting sick, lowering the risk of dying from COVID, but you can still catch it. I'm like, yes, we're part of you can catch it, but the risk of dying or getting sick, it's much lower. It's not 100%, but I find that that's always the rebuttal. Always the rebuttal. Some people are just, unfortunately, not getting it, but we are seeing a little bit of increase in vaccines, etc. But we're seeing also a lot of numbers of deaths. We're over 100. Unfortunately, souls have gone. You know, and it's just one of those things that you have to keep trying. Now, we have over 2,000 people in home isolation right now, and the numbers are climbing. Is your team as ready as it possibly can be? Because we know that nothing is going to be perfect and we're going to have some teeth and problems. Do you have enough resources right now to even manage the over 2,000? That may be calling, that may want bracelets, that may need monitoring and checking in on. It's a lot of people.
It's a lot of people. We do not have enough people out in the field to do as many as is happening. However, we are all ready and we are all working. The teams are working from early in the mornings way to night. And I'll tell you, I have to thank the Barbadian public. We've been calling people at night and persons may be listening to this program, and the first thing you have to do, I'm sorry to call so late at night, I apologize, but this is the time that I have to call you. We've been calling them to do our assessments at that time, and they've been tolerable, and we have not had a single case of person being upset at a phone call from the home isolation team at night, or when they're resting, or even when they're not feeling well. And so we have to thank the Barbadian public for that. But your question is valid. We are trying our best with the resources that we have. Remember, the most important thing for home isolation is to identify the people who are at risk and remove them from the community and into a central area that we can monitor and save lives. So once we do that, so there will be, I know there are many people in isolation who have not been contacted, and they think that the system has failed. But the system has not quite failed because we are removing persons who are at high risk. Once we identify them as high risk, if you are in home isolation and we haven't called you, then maybe you are much lower risk, and we think that you can.
And not only you haven't called them, but they haven't tried to call you to say, I'm not well. Because for sure, I can tell you, I know a number of persons right now in home isolation that after they got back their results, that no one has gotten back to them, but they themselves said, look, I'm feeling okay, but I'll stay home and I'm going to wait. And they are very happy that they don't have to leave home. Trust me, there are a lot of people who hate the idea of catching COVID, of course, but like the idea of being able to stay home in the comfort of their home, because being in isolation, as much as we say the Harrison's Point, and then it's nice, yes, in terms of what it's supposed to do, but it's not a hotel. And
it's
people,
not home. And
it's not a 5-star, it's not even 2-star. But the point is that I think people go down there, and I've seen the complaints, and I'm like shocked. I mean, oh, people are complaining about food in some of these areas, and I'm like, but why would you complain about food? You're free to have your family send down food for you and things if you don't like it. And I see these pictures going up, and I'm thinking, dear God, honestly, if that was the only problem I had in life to complain about what kind of meals you get, I would be a very happy person for those people who just complain. But again, I want to take the opportunity, though, while you're here, to publicly commend again all of the workers, not just the healthcare workers across the board, but in the isolation facilities provided by the government, and now for your team to be able to take that now and transition that into a home isolation requires a lot of coordination. And I wish to commend you you're in charge of it. And it seems to be going okay. We know that, as you said, and you were very honest, look, we don't have everybody. We haven't contacted everybody. We're working on it. And you've declared your hand so that the complainers, as soon as the show is finished, they go like, oh, you see what I tell you? They may call this buddy yet, and then call that buddy yet.
Yes,
but I just wanted to be clear that you did say to us that there's some people that you know that you haven't gotten to as yet. So let us repeat the number again for those who might have missed it, that this number that we are about to call is for persons who are at home, who are in home isolation, established that they're in home isolation, or even waiting for a call to be moved into some sort of assessment. If you're not feeling well, but you've determined that you're home, can they call this number as well, or is it only the ones you are monitoring? Because I got to be very clear.
Yeah, let's just get that the purpose of this call center.
Right.
If you are at home and you have a concern, meaning that you either your symptoms have developed, or you are getting worse, or that after your 10 days no one has spoken to you and you want to be discharged, you can call 536-1800. So I repeat, for persons in quarantine who have an issue, or persons in isolation who are either getting sick, getting worse, have not been called, and it's 10 days and they have to be discharged, 536-1800. The information that we need when you call to be discharged includes an email address, because we send a discharge certificate to that email address, which you can now take to work. And if you want to submit that to the NIS so that they will know that you actually were at home under isolation, you can do so. But we need a valid email address to do that.
All right, and final words, I wouldn't mind if you repeat again. Persons who are eligible for home isolation are people generally in fair health, good health, vaccinated, and I'll let you explain in your final words.
That's right.
Okay.
Right. Home isolation are persons who have low risk. So if you're vaccinated, no comorbidities, very mild symptoms or no symptoms at all, and your home is suitable to be kept away from everyone else, you are eligible for home isolation. Also, I'd like to stress the number to call for the call center is 536-1800 if you have any issues while in isolation. And please, Barbados, remember we have vaccines out there. They are behind. Please, let's make use of them. There are many countries without any vaccines, and we have that luxury. So let us use it. You make your choice. We've been on this program many times, giving you the information that you need. Make your choice, and let's go.
Well, thank you, Dr. Brian Charles. I know that this, again, will not be the last time, because we enjoy having you and getting the information. And Godspeed to you and your team as you try to manage this process of home isolation. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Much appreciated.
Thank you. When we come back, we will have the president of the Barbados Association of Retired Persons, MARILYN BOWEN. I keep saying it the opposite way, and I'm sure she's going to probably tell me about it, MARILYN RICE-BOWEN, when we come back. Welcome to Face It and Fix It. Our next guest is the president of the Barbados Association of Retired Persons, MARILYN RICE-BOWEN. MARILYN, are you there with us? Forgive me for
Yes, I am.
switching up your name. My apologies. But I must say before we start, I need to get to BARP to get my card. I was most embarrassed the other day when someone says, Joy, you can get a discount. You got your BARP card? I'm like, oh, shoot. So I'm 2 years behind. It's 50 and up, right?
Yes, of course.
Right. So I'm 52 in December. So I'm thinking I'm going to give myself the gift of a BARP card so that I can enjoy all of the discounts. You look lovely, by the way.
Thank you. I am trying to look and to generate some life and hope, because we are, as a nation, we are grieving. And prior to our interview, I want to, on behalf of the Board of Directors, the management and staff of BARP, extend our deepest condolences to the families of those persons who have passed as a result of COVID-19. We do hope that their memories be a blessing. It is a difficult time, but we will remember them in prayer as well.
It is indeed a very difficult time. What is BARP's plan and strategy for its members in this COVID-19 environment that we're in?
Okay, what we are doing, are continuing, because we started it in March of last year. We are ramping up our wellness checks, because we recognize the importance of staying in touch with our members, and not necessarily only the senior ones, but all members. We are, calling them to see how they're doing, and to see, of course, if they need any assistance. And when I refer to assistance, I'm speaking about maybe if they need us to make a call for them to ensure that their medication is delivered, or to reach out to a loved one, but we recognize the importance of communication, particularly in these times. And although there isn't a national lockdown or a state lockdown, we want to keep emphasizing to our members that you institute your own personal lockdown for your own safety. So if you're going out 4 days a week, reduce it to 3, then eventually you'll get it down to 1. But let's do our part by staying at home and staying still. And of course, most importantly, Joy, I'm following the protocols as well.
Of course. So what does this pandemic reveal for BARP? I mean, because one of the things you just mentioned is communication, communicate more. There are some other things that this pandemic has revealed for your members, things that you may want to do better or should be doing better?
Certainly, because you know, people often said that COVID reshaped the world, but it reshaped BARP as well, because whereas we were not toying, but we were examining the opportunities to go digital, fully digital, but COVID-19 accelerated that movement. So today you can, and I'll speak to you after the show, because you can join online, you can pay online, and then when you just come to BARP to collect the card if you so desire. But because I would want to welcome you at BARP, I would want you, of course, to come to BARP to collect your card so we can do a photo op as well.
Okay.
However, what it has done is, you know, our way of doing business. And then we also recognize that some of our seniors were being left behind, because you would recognize that once COVID came on the scene, most companies were going digital. And as a result, it was difficult for some of our seniors to keep up. So what we started to do, and we are going to probably before the end of this year, because Christmas is coming and family members need to stay in touch with their loved ones, we are going to offer programs via Zoom on how to use the Zoom platform to our seniors. And because it's important for them to stay in touch. And there's some other things I'll tell you post-COVID. But right now, what's important is allowing them, giving them the exposure to the technology. And one of our first steps is showing them how to use Zoom effectively. And we know that we are confident that once we get through that phase, our members will be communicating with each other more often.
Well, I was about to ask you a question pertaining to the mental health, but let's take a call. We have a call on the line for you. Good morning,
Okay.
Face It and Fix It. You're on the air. Good morning.
Morning. I would just like to find out what is happening in Barbados regarding overseas pensioners who came to Barbados, bought property, and are now living in these large properties by themselves, some of which is in need of repair. Like myself, my roof needs repairing. But you go to the bank and ask for a small loan to do these repairs, and they tell you that, you know, you're too old to have any loans from the bank. Now, these houses are being left to rot. Many of the elderly that I know ran back to the UK, left the houses, vines growing on it. Some of them are becoming derelict because there's nothing they can do to repair these houses. And I'm not talking about big repairs. You know, maybe a roof that needs replacing, windows that might need replacing, and the roof especially, because if the roof is leaking, you can't stay in the house. And I'm wondering if there's anything BARP or anybody can do to encourage the banks to be able to give small loans to elderly people. As a matter of fact, the pensioners from overseas are the ones that are sure, you know, they're getting a fairly good pension. Why aren't they allowed to have a small loan? As a matter of fact, I had 3 loans before 75. No difference now, but you can't get any assistance. Can she help with this?
Okay, Marilyn.
Yeah.
Thanks, caller.
Good
Thanks
morning,
very
ma'am.
much for that.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Okay, first thing, with reference to the banks, you made mention of the overseas pensions being strong pensions, but I want to assure you that all pensions are indeed strong and they are a source of guaranteed income. But with reference to the bank, I can't speak with any degree of certainty as to the age factor, but what I know is the determining factor would be your history and your relationship with the bank. Now, you mentioned that with the houses, you know, being big and all that, it's very difficult. It is extremely difficult to downsize. But what I always suggest to people is there comes a time in our lives when we need to downsize, because sometimes you have rooms in the house that you don't even go into. And maybe now might be a good time for you to consider downsizing, sell the property and get a smaller property that's more manageable. I know that would not be the answer you're looking for, but I want to keep it very real. And with reference to assistance with roofing, you also mentioned that it's a big property. So big properties and roofs are major projects. And whereas BARP, we had a program we partnered with the Barbados Light and Power, and we assisted some families last year, and we will do so this year again to assist persons with roof repairs and that window and that door. There are some people that we can fix a siding. It's not, the funds are not huge, but we can, we can help some people in a small way to secure their homes. But really, roof repairs are major repairs. So even if, let's say, for instance, we had taken the decision to come and see this lady's roof, I am sure that the funds that we have in hand, and these funds are managed by our trust, BARP Charitable Trust, we would not even be able to probably change quarter of the roof. So we as advocates, we can have that dialogue with the bank, but it is not guaranteed. But what we always suggest to persons is, if over the years you've had a relationship with the bank, even although you are retired, because of the relationship you would have developed, sometimes you can get the funding that you require. But in the event that you recognize that the property is becoming a bit too much for you to manage, I always suggest downsize. You can get, there's some nice going to buy a condo, whatever, but downsize. There are some properties out there you can get a smaller property and downsize and enjoy life. Because as seniors, we need to celebrate life. And anything that stops us from celebrating, we have to put out of the way.
I so agree with that. I remember before my daughter's granny died, Eileen Sweeney, we called her Girly. She always said, listen, you like space, but when you get old, them stairs, I tell you. So when we want to build homes, we don't factor in age, and we want, all these stairs and steps, and then we can't enjoy it because we either go stay upstairs or stay downstairs. One of the two. So it becomes difficult. But before the call, I was asking you about, you were telling us about connecting via Zoom and checking up on your members, etc. What has been the mental health situation with your membership in this pandemic? You seen more persons depressed, lonely, and what are you doing in order to reach out?
Okay, well, as I said, what we are doing is the wellness checks. And what we will do, and will be via Zoom, to encourage people to use that platform so that they can communicate, as well as we offer workshops and seminars via Zoom as well. But we don't have any evidence to support the deterioration of a person's mental health. What we recognize, what happened particularly during the last lockdown, is that persons felt abandoned. But because they still have the ability to walk around and go to the grocery and go to the post office, and they can still go to church, they are not experiencing this sense of abandonment that they would have had last year during the initial lockdown. And but as I said, by staying in touch, and it's very important not only as BARP to stay in touch, but it is important as family members that you stay in touch with your loved ones. There are some who feel that you should only contact them at Christmas or birthdays, or if you want something done. But you should make a habit of calling your loved ones, even if it's weekly. Daily might be a bit of a stretch, depends on your on your activity. But I have an aunt that she can set her clock that every Sunday morning I call her. Every Sunday morning. So she would tell you, she would say to you, if she sees a certain time, she said, you oversleep or something, you were busy. But she knows that I will call her on Sunday mornings. And we also have this open door policy that if she needs me outside of Sunday, she can pick up the phone and call. But we talk every Sunday. So get into the routine of reaching out to your loved ones, because whereas, yes, as an organization, there's a lot that we can do. We also want families to strengthen their family units by staying in touch with their loved ones.
Well, I know how important it is, and I'll tell you no, without getting emotional. It's rough sometimes reaching out to a loved one. And I know I don't call my mom as often as I should, and I know she's watching, and I'm sorry that I don't. But when you know that someone is a little bit different than they were before, it's hard sometimes to make that phone call. But we'll be back after the break. We have to take a quick break, and we're gonna come right back. We'll be back. Welcome back to Face It and Fix It. We're speaking with MARILYN RICE-BOWEN, the president of the Barbados Association of Retired Persons, an organization that when I leave here, I will be joining probably by today or hopefully by tomorrow. Welcome back, MARILYN.
Thank you very much, Joanne. I recognize that you were tearing up a bit, and I want to send you some virtual hugs. And I'm certain that there are so many people, sending you loads, and from all of us at BARP, so there's a lot of it coming your way. But I want you to know that even although things might change, if you just call and say, love you, and just hang up, that familiar voice, there is something in your voice that will give her might give her heart a little jump start. So today, as we look at Face It or Fix It, that is something that you can fix incrementally.
I do.
You're going to get it done.
No, and listen, I'm on this show, and I by no means perfect. And
none of us
but
are.
I'm honest, and I said it publicly. I think that it's hard sometimes. There are people who do care and they reach out, and there are people who still care but find it difficult to face certain things because they see things have changed, and it's painful. No lie, it is painful. Which also now brings me to another subject. I mean, outside of COVID, because we've got a lot of issues with our elderly and care and respect for our elderly, in particular in this COVID environment. And I want to talk about people who leave their loved ones at the QEH before going to something else.
Yeah,
We've got about, the number changes depending on who dies there, and the situation is not fully, has not been addressed. We can't force the children who, I just can't see how your mother helped you, or your grandmother, and you just leave them. But then I do understand that maybe they can't manage. But Kadir, who is picking up the pension check when the old people lie now in the hospital and the family just disappears? Is this something that BARP is looking at or lending their voice to when it comes to care for the elderly? Because I know I hear you on so many different issues. It's just one of them.
It's an issue that we have not really put a lot of emphasis on, but what he can tell you is that we do a lot of work behind the scenes with reference to elderly and elderly care. But what we do recognize is that you said the key word, management. Management is really important, because when people abandon their loved ones, it is wrong. You know, you can't say anything else, but it is wrong. But some people do it out of they don't know what else to do. They've, you know, we have not trained, we have not exposed people to dealing with situations like caring for the elderly. And you know, there are times that people would tell, "Why go to work?" You know, so they would figure, well, let me leave her there, she will get care. But not only BARP, but I think the faith-based organizations, as well as the youth organizations, maybe going forward is probably a project that we all can look at. Yes. Because we as the we as the seniors in the community, we could tell them how we feel. But we think, I really feel, and when I say I BARP, we really feel that the emphasis should be placed on how to cope. It is a matter of coping. And when people do not know how to cope, they react very negatively. So we as advocates, we need to put programs in place and to draw other organizations on board to present programs on coping skills, particularly with coping skills with the elderly, because the first thing people do is just discard them. But they discard them physically, but they still walk with them in their hearts. So let us, we need to put something in place. That is something, Joyanne, that we can fix, and fix it collaboratively.
Correct. I agree with you. Let's take a call, Marilyn. We have another call. Good morning. Face it and fix it. You're on the air.
Peace be unto you and yours, Miss Haigh. Marilyn, good morning to you, ma'am.
Morning, ma'am.
Miss Bowen, I should say sorry about that protocol. That's all right. Anyhow, may God continue to strengthen your organization and many more organizations too, you know, in the good that you're doing. I'm a bad person too. I was supposed to do it every since, but wait till I get feeble then to do it. But this morning you're speaking about the elderly celebrating 107 years old today from Poikon, Miss Ursula Sorbers. So that is one of your centenarians. So
107?
Yeah, may God,
wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So may God continue to bless her. I sent you the WhatsApp, but I guess you have a lot of mistakes, so you probably in the
yeah, I'm sure if you sent me with the producer, they also have the WhatsApps up there too as well. So we don't always get through all. But thanks.
Good works up. Keep the good works up, Miss Bowen. You're doing a very good job.
You.
God bless you.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
God bless you. God bless you.
God bless you. And if the families of Miss Ursula Sobers, if they're watching, want to extend a happy birthday to Miss Sobers from all of us at BARP, all
Yes.
22,000 of us at BARP, we are sending you loads and loads of love. And to the families that are looking, the families that are caring for Miss Sobers, we are also sending you love as well.
Families from Pike Corner in St. Lucie, the WhatsApp's there on the screen, and they're wishing blessings to Ursula Sobers. I mean, could we be so lucky? Only a couple days ago, Marilyn, I knew you were coming, and I put something on my Facebook page, because I braided my hair, and I have my braids down with this little cross, but I've got beads on. So these are called Pop Smoke braids, by the way. So I said I'm rocking my braids at 51, and I'm encouraging all the ladies over the age of 50. And I said, look, we may not be able to make babies anymore, but we are able to make good friends, make good memories, and have fun. And I think we should celebrate our sunset years. And I only put that up about 3 days ago. I said, I'm talking to BARP this week, so I'm going to start the conversation. Of course, people are like, you're 51? I was like, well, not 51, 51. 10 months, a couple days, I'm going to be 52. And of course, we don't forget, well, it's almost like only the other day you felt like if you were at school. And I remember looking at people my age now, even looking at you. I'm thinking, wait, how come when I was at school, the older people, they look so hip and so young? And I find that older people are taking care a little bit more of themselves. I think when we were younger, the older people kind of aged early. I think they aged themselves early. More shut-ins, or, you know, wigs, these stockings, you know, these sweaters, and things like that. I mean, I don't know your age, but you're the president, so you got to be...
I don't have a problem. I'm 67.
Okay, there you go.
Right?
See?
I'm 67.
And look at you.
I feel God has been good, but it's about celebrating life, and it comes from within. You see, I recall looking at, as you quite rightly said, Joanne, when we looked at people even when they were 50, from the time you became 50, you wore a hat in the evening because you don't want to join your head. You had to wear a sweater. You couldn't wear armholes. You didn't wear lipstick. But in comes this group now, and we are saying we are celebrating life. We are celebrating. You're celebrating with your braids. I'm celebrating my grayness. You know, I have two of my very good friends whom I love dearly. They always tell me, Marlyn, I'm going to die until I die. They are not going to wear gray. But but you just celebrate life and you do what you like. And I'm not telling you to go and do stupid things, but just go with the flow. Just go with that flow, and it is about embracing yourself and being that confident. So just celebrate life.
And I do, but I wanted to add there when they asked me my age, and I said, when they say, well, you don't look 51, I said, I may not look 51, but I can tell you my organs are 51. My kidneys are 51, my liver is 51, my heart is 51. So I don't get confused, I make sure that, yeah, but I mean, I still have some bad habits that I want to address, and I don't know if it's too late to address them, but there's never too late. And it warms my heart to see the elderly exercising. My producer here, Peter Ali, she goes to the beach, and I get jealous because she's talking about swimming all the way out to here and there, and I cannot swim. I can't swim, Peter. We got to talk after the show. I can't swim. God help me, but I just can't. And most Barbadians...
There were some classes, Joanne, there were some free classes being offered by I think it was the Sports Council. You must follow up.
Yes, and they were still doing that. I don't know in the environment that we're in now.
No, it was not the time.
No, it's not the time.
Put on your list. Put on your list.
My to-do list.
You should not live on an island and can't swim.
I agree. I agree. It was just maybe hoping that somebody would just throw me off a boat and tell me to learn. Maybe then I would, but I haven't gotten there yet. We got a quick call, but then I want to talk about vaccines and the elderly. Let's take this call first. Face it and fix it. Good morning. Good morning.
Hello?
Hi, listen to your telephone, please.
Hello, Norma Jackman. Huh? I were talking to you just now?
Yes, you're on
My
the air.
godmother
Listen
name
to your
is
phone.
Adams, and she live in Montreal. And her birthday tomorrow. She's 108 years old.
Wow.
Okay.
She was born in Lightfoot Lane, and she has never joined another religion different than Salvation Army.
Wow.
And she's 108.
108, honey. And
You know, I really want to know what his secret is, though. Like, God,
I would like to. I think that you had a chance that you could tell her. You can think she's 60.
who's that?
If you speak to her now, you think she's 60.
Oh, you think she's 60? Oh, okay.
And every morning at 9 o'clock, she picks up her paper and reads from back to front. She has never joined.
Wow, that's good.
Very good. Well,
And you said this is Norma,
Yes.
Norma Chapman?
Yes,
Norma?
yes, it is.
But Norma, you holding good for yourself as well. I'm so happy to hear you.
Why is 90?
90? Don't tell anybody, they won't believe you.
she's 90?
90.
Wow.
I don't tell the daddy if
Whoa,
I'm ready
good
now.
90, Norma.
Huh?
Sorry?
Don't tell the daddy if I'm ready now.
Me ain't gonna tell them.
Tell them, oh God.
No, me ain't gonna tell nobody. You call, and just so you know that everybody is listening on the radio, we're on TV,
Yes.
we're on social media, which means there are people tuning in from Boston, Texas, Canada. So, but anyway, good to hear you. Good to hear you. So Marilyn, I want to mention about she's still there?
Yeah, you know Norma can stay for a while.
Okay. Nice talking to you, Norma. Okay, so we want to talk about the vaccines. And remember when we first started out, we went for the most vulnerable persons in Barbados. We went for the elderly persons. But yet, almost every death, I'm hearing 76, 82, 65, 54 unvaccinated. Your membership, how big is the membership, and what did you do or can you do or have you been doing to sort of sensitize them about getting the vaccine and the importance of being vaccinated? Because I was shocked, I am shocked that 99% of the persons were not vaccinated.
Yeah, I'm you know, it bothers us as well at BARP, because when the vaccine program started, we assisted by calling seniors. We received a list from the Department of Health and the Ministry of Health, and we assisted by calling persons. I think we were doing in those days probably it was 70 and up, but calling them and ensuring that they got their appointments to be vaccinated. But obviously, seeing the numbers of persons who are dying unvaccinated and are seniors, we are losing a chunk of our reservoir of knowledge. And so what we at BARP will do on the 23rd, we're going to have a pop-up clinic in partnership with 7Cs. We will have a pop-up clinic at BARP, and for our seniors. Now, we're not saying if you're 40 and coming to turn you back, but we want to focus on our seniors. And it's going to be Saturday the 23rd from 10 until 4. And we want persons to bring out the grannies, the godmothers, the great uncles. There are persons in your household who know who have not yet been vaccinated. And we want to encourage all Barbados. I'm saying, yeah, if there are too many 23rd, who knows? We'll have another clinic and another clinic and another clinic. But we are going to offer our facilities to ensure that the seniors in this country are given access to the vaccines. So we want to encourage all family members, and we offer this clinic on a Saturday because we recognize that they're working families, persons working within the family unit. So we are giving you that Saturday where you can bring your loved ones, just bring them and make sure that they're vaccinated. We need to save lives. Where we are now, we need to save lives. And it really pains us when we see how our reservoir is being diminished daily through the loss of our seniors within our communities. And once that happens, Joyanne, our communities are being weakened by the death of these seniors.
Well, what I want to mention as well is I find that there are some young persons who live at home with a grandmother, or the mother being, I don't know, maybe over 50, may not be well, and they don't have any respect for the protocols on the outside, and then they're coming into the homes and then they're spreading COVID to their grandparents or great aunts, and some of them clearly, like, they don't seem to care, and that is something that I don't even want to wrap my brain around it. I would hate to think that it's deliberate, but then I recognize that people just abuse the elderly, and that's deliberate. Leave them in the hospital, that's deliberate. So I want to urge the neighbors and even the family members, if you suspect that there's a younger person living in the home, and by the time you turn your back, want to unfair granny, granddad, you know, say something and report it, because it's a very, very, very serious thing. And it crossed my mind the other day, and it sent shivers down my spine, that persons can be reckless and deliberately reckless towards the elderly. And that is scary. And the only way I believe that we can help protect the elderly is maybe getting some of the neighbors, like I said, involved, the family members that exercise good judgment in the family, to sort of make sure that you would have to either put out that individual. There was an individual I know of that was told that he was exposed to COVID, went back home to his grandmother, ain't telling nobody nothing. And, well, no, but the grandmother fixed him because she put it out. So
good for her.
And good for her. And I would encourage everybody, anybody, if you believe that your life is at risk and you're an old person,
put them out.
Put them out. As well, if they're big men and women, they should be unknown anyway. So put them out. You're probably doing them a favor and yourself. Marley, we run out of time, but what about your programs for BARP? I know you mentioned, we just put up one there. I think we just got to do another show and another show, because we got a lot. We got a lot to cover.
BARP is a long conversation, so another show will be adequate, because there's so much more we can tell you about our post-COVID plans that are way ahead. They call our membership roadshow. The fact that we are going to have a members business center where our members post-COVID can come to BARP and fill out their passport forms, because not everybody has a computer at home, and we recognize that. So, and that they can they can renew their driver's license, and as well as we want to expose them to the use of the ATM and the border control machines. There's so much we want to share with you, Joyanne.
And I want to see more respect. I want to see how we can find ways to sensitize people to, because Marlyn, you may know, and everybody knows about Sky, and she's challenged, she has Down syndrome.
Yes.
And I see that the elderly are treated in the same way as persons with disabilities. No respect. No, I mean, not from everybody, but there are we have a long way to go. We have a long way to go to the people who change your Pampers, who work hard to make sure you went to school and that you ate. And how could we be so inhumane and as how we treat them? They don't have to be your family. It just happens to be a person walking the street. Once upon a time, Marlyn, before we go, my mother would tan my behind. If you don't open your mouth and say good morning, an older person speaking, even if my mother didn't like the person, you have to speak. That's how we were brought up. You know, you have to show the elderly respect. So you and I will talk, and I suspect we will talk a lot outside of the show.
Definitely.
And and it would be my pleasure. Yes, I'll tell you this. When I heard about a BARP card, I was like, already? But then when I realized that all these savings of things that for the time I go like, shoot, I don't have a BARP card. Shoot, I gotta join.
When you recognize the power of the card.
The power of the card.
The card has power. Yes.
The card has power. So I welcome, I will be putting on my best, Sunday best, because I believe I got to take a picture. So, and I can welcome,
Yes.
yeah, because I'm going to embrace that card at age 52, 2 years after the fact, but better late than never. I want to thank you so much for being on the show, and I want you to come back. So
Definitely. Thank you so much, and I want to wish Barbados, want to reinforce the fact that we all should observe the protocols. I want you to continue to be well and stay safe. And at BARP, we are committed to saving lives and strengthening communities. So let's stay in touch.
thank you, MARILYN. Thank you very much for coming. That was MARILYN RICE-BOWEN, the president of the Barbados Association of Retired Persons. Coming up after the break is Nathan Hart from BNOC. Welcome back to Face It and Fix It. Before we go to our next guest, we're going to take a call. Good morning, Face It and Fix It. You are on the air. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I was talking, there's no but mine, oh dear. Good morning.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was wondering how come my nephew came in from overseas to spend some time with his mother. But, you know, it's ridiculous that he ain't getting no results back to say if he's okay or not. And his birthday is coming up. You could tell me why that he hasn't been spending his birthday in a hotel when he was spending his birthday with his family, and he can't because nobody ain't giving him results to tell him that it's okay, it's all right or not. Come on now. Because
So
I mean, his mother getting stressed out, and she's stressing out herself every day, wondering when her son will come to see her. His son got to go back to New York sometime this soon, and he in a hotel spending time, and he should be spending time with his mother.
Okay. Well, because I don't have all the details, let me just ask you a quick question. You said he just came in from the States, so he's waiting for his test results? Is that what he's waiting for? Okay. Well, unfortunately, that call seems to have dropped out. But again, when you're traveling, you got to take these things into consideration, that it's not business as usual. You're going to have to come, you're going to have to test, you're going to have to quarantine. So it makes no sense coming for a 2-week trip if most of the time you're going to have to be checking yourself and getting tested. Before we go to Nathan, I also want to mention circulating that there's some rapid antigen nasal test we see is selling in Barbados for $13.50. A do-it-yourself rapid antigen test. I will ask about that maybe to Dr. Brian Charles and certainly to the people at the Barbados Santos lab. We're not sure whether or not that test is a test that should be circulating, and if it is for $13.50, not sure who's going to put that up your nose, because I understand it's a do-it-yourself, so you may have to put that up your nostrils yourself. Again, $13.50. No, but, well, I thank you very much. I'm sorry, I was hearing the ears. We don't know if it is accurate, and this is why we are sharing it to anybody can verify, hence why I said we will check with the Barbados Santos lab to see whether or not this is true, and do we have these tests, do-it-yourself tests in Barbados, or is this just people who just want to be mischievous and just put this up here on social media. But we're going to check it out, and we're going to get back to you to let you know if this information is accurate. Nathan Hart is now joining us from the Barbados National Oil Company. Nathan, good morning. Nathan, are you there? Hello.
Yes, I'm here. Yeah.
Hi, Nathan. How are you?
I'm okay. I'm excited to be here with you.
Good. Well, Face It and Fix It would not be Face It and Fix It if we did not bring up and keep addressing the situation with the rate increase request from the Barbados Light and Power Company to the FTC. So we invited you on the show because we know you know a lot about renewable energy and how can we best advise customers to lower their energy bills while the Barbados Light and Power is concentrating on a rate increase. I would like us to concentrate on how best we can get our Barbadians, and I think this is a job for the Light and Power as well, to embark on a massive energy conservation campaign so that we can lower our bills. So you and I spoke before the show, well, not before the show, I should say, after we heard about the rate increase. So what are your views, first of all, on the rate increase, and then we can move into what Barbadians can do to lower their energy bills?
You always question one sentence. You think about it before we go down to energy. I don't want the public to think that as we discuss energy, that I've been following the program and I recognize that COVID-19 is very important to you. And I just want to highlight that, that for me, in my family, we are fully, vaccinated, and in the organization that that I belong, that we are not anti-vaccine. And I just want to highlight that energy and the increase of energy is going to affect facets of life, and especially as we try to deal with this whole COVID-19 pandemic here in the country. Now, it's unfortunate at this particular time. I have the October 10th Sunday newspaper here, and Light and Power needs a rate increase. When I heard some reasoning, and you and I spoke about it, where it mentioned that, that for the 35% of the customers who have a tariff below 150 kilowatt hours, it's only a $6 increase. Mm-hmm. But I just want to highlight the person. There is going to be a direct increase and an indirect increase. So if it's thinking in a bubble that is only going to affect me, but it's not true, because we all have to go to the supermarket. We all have to engage in some form of cooling or business operation, pumping, and there is going to be indirect spin-offs and effects to the entire public. And as you all, they represent 8% of the total energy matter in the country. As energy, especially, for example, the water company, which is a large power user, and they're talking about a 16% increase. Joy, I want to ask you a question. Most times when there are increase in energy, what these or utilities do? They tend to do what, Joy?
Say that again. Well, they're going to obviously need to increase their costs.
Their costs, and they tend to pass that cost to their customers or farmers and consumers. So let me sit and think that this rate increase may not affect me directly. That's not true. There's going to be a direct, indirect effect to all of us. So I think more so, if we need to be as a country, as individuals, even more prudent about how we can do energy efficiency in our home. Be very concerned about how we use energy in terms of cooling. And I just have a concern that as COVID-19 affects us, and then there's some of these facilities, and energy is important. I'm sure that an increase in energy is going to affect government. Government is one of the company largest schools, the polyclinics, all of the areas that are so, I could say, traumatized by the effect of COVID-19. So an increase in this particular point in time is going to really hamper us, and maybe can be an inhibitor of how we exit out of this COVID-19 era.
Well, it certainly hit us by surprise, the entire population of Barbados, rich, middle class, middle income, poor, about this request. Light and Power, as we know, is embarking in some renewable energy projects, and I suspect that they would need the additional funds to do that. But when you raise the bill now, even though we are supposed to have a lower light bill, because then we're not depending on fuel, we're depending on the sun, which should then be lower, you and I both know that once the price goes up, it's almost like someone wants to position themselves to make sure the price is up, so that there'll be no further price hike when they do the renewables, because renewables is supposed to be cheaper. But you and I both know that prices don't go down. They hardly ever do. Now, people have been asking about putting solar onto their homes at a reasonable price. And I spoke to a newspaper the other day, because I am very, very passionate about this move by the Barbados Light and Power. I am a consumer. I run a little business. I'm a mother. I have children. I have a household to run. And I'm hoping that others would voice their concerns about this increase. So I voiced mine to a newspaper, and I also included things like water conservation, water, I custom with the water, energy conservation, in this case. And you had mentioned in another show, when we had you on for the first time, that BNOC has some plans in place to be able to install some solar panels at a monthly rate. But what I said publicly is that I want to encourage finance companies maybe to partner with smaller renewable energy companies, and I said that publicly, so that people like myself and other persons can call up and say, look, I want a quote, and it's $10,000, I can go to the bank, I can borrow it, and the company gets their money while we pay monthly to the finance company. You want to tell us about this project a little bit? I know that's not your role, but you did mention it to us, how customers can get access to Barbados National Oil Company's projects.
So it's an excellent project right now that the oil company is running. In fact, as I mentioned, somebody is part of that project, my son, who studied renewable energy in it. And so the whole aspect is that small companies, installers, have partnered with the oil company and are doing these installations. So it is a simple process, and especially for persons who may work in the civil service, they can simply call up at the National Oil Company. They bring a light bill. You can call Karen or Richard, who works in the RE department, or Keisha, and simply make an appointment. One of the field officers will come to your property, inspect the home, which usually takes about 15 minutes. And then as you sign up, and once you qualify, you can literally get several options. There's a certain of $79, not $79 a month, for a 3 kilowatt system. And the 5 kilowatt system that they're off, which is $173, and then you can get multiples of that systems up to 20 kilowatts if you so desire, not only to offset your energy costs, but also to use it as an investment opportunity. Right now is a good time to do so.
So to a person who don't really understand what 3 kilowatts can do on power, if you got a, I don't know, the fridge, the usual basic stuff, fridge, stove, TV, AC, are you trying to say that 3 kilowatts, I could come off the grid completely, or you can just say it doesn't work that way?
So it doesn't. So most persons, I always hear persons ask me, "Can I get a solar panel to plug into my iron? Can I get a solar panel to plug into my fridge?" No, these systems actually plug directly into the main distribution panel in the home. That breaker box that you will see with all those breakers within life, and then everything is powered off of the renewable energy system, which is a grid-tied system. I'll be pleased to note that in the next coming, a new technology that is being offered by the oil company, where there's a technology that allows you to use some of the energy, store some of the energy that you use. So it'll be like a self-storage system. And persons are, and especially now with these rates that are going up, looking at a way where customers...
which rates, Nathan? Let me stick a pin. The rates are not going up. They've made a request for a rate increase.
Well,
I'm thinking positive that request would be denied at this time, because again, it's not that we want to not say that they shouldn't get one, and maybe they would eventually. I think what we're all trying to say that now is not the time for a rate increase for the Barbados Light and Power. But continue. I just wanted to make sure to be clear that because they're not getting the rate increase, they made the request.
Made a request. So what we're looking at is actually investing in battery technology, and now with the whole advent, as I mentioned to you, that the technology is getting a lot cheaper. Persons can look at having a hybrid system where you store some of the energy, the excess energy, use it later on in the night. This is one of the aspects that we are rolling out, and some of this technology also. But I think if it is now is the time for individuals to invest in a renewable energy. So most persons were saying, for example, that the capital cost was high. No, the Barbados National Oil Company has actually made energy accessible to all as low as $79 a month. If you do so, and you ask what I can do, if you have, for example, in this request for a rate increase, they said that 35% of the custom domestic service use 50 kilowatt. In fact, if you invest in a 3 kilowatt system, a 3 kilowatt system will actually cover all of that basic needs of 150 kilowatt hours per month, which I would encourage persons to do so now. And then there's an option that, let's say, if things get economically better, you can expand in that system and increase your capacity. So now I think that opportunity to get onto the grid, and with the 3 kilowatt system, a lot of the red tape in terms of requiring a licensing and stuff, Giant, is not needed. And it is a very simple process. It's nothing complicated. There's no moving parts. There's minimal amount of maintenance. So persons need not to worry about this.
Well, we got to take a quick break here. No, Nathan, we're going to come right back because I'm going to ask you about some things that we can do. If in the meantime, what kind of appliances should we be buying in the meantime until we can afford the introduction of solar into our homes? We'll be back after the break. Welcome back to Face It and Fix It. We're speaking with Mr. Nathan Hart, engineer with the Barbados National Oil Company, an engineer that wears a lot of hats, an engineer with a lot of qualifications. But this morning we're talking about the one that he is concentrating on right now, which is renewable energy. Nathan, I know from time to time people may call you, and or not they do call you. I do. We buy products all the time and we don't have the solar in our homes, but we see these things mark on energy saver, a TV, a fridge. These things actually work? Do we actually save energy when we buy these devices?
Oh, they do, because in order to qualify, for example, you will see a television, a computer appliance that have the E in it. They must a particular organization. And if they recognize after severe amount of testing that they qualify, then to have these stamps. And that makes a big difference. A lot of energy first can be started by behavioral changes. Simple things and persons were heard is locking up the lights after you leave a room, or not running the air for a long time, or using with an air conditioned unit. These are some of the things that we can do if it is that we don't have the cost to invest in an energy system. So first thing first is that buying appliances, like if you're a refrigerator or such, look for one. There's always this part where it has a type A, B, C, D, or E, which shows the amount of energy that the particular will consume. And as it goes up to the higher in the alphabet, you recognize that the energy usage is a lot less. So these things do, but behavioral change and how we use energy in our homes will make a difference. But John, you and I spoke this week about energy. Mm-hmm. The fact that, for example, I have three children, 2 young adults. One is at community college, other one just finished school. One is at now we have some. And my wife also is a teacher who is as we speak from home. Sometimes, and then sometimes you may have a household that is using 5 computers, 5 laptops. You can do as much energy conservation as you need. But when we look at the whole COVID-19, that our children have to be studying and working from home, how to mitigate against that? So I'm still concerned that with the whole application for a rate increase, and now we are children and persons working from home, and especially now with climate change where we have hotter days, and you look at the climate and persons having to depend on cooling, air conditioning, how we could do as much behavioral changes, but yet still persons' energy costs gone up, and that is my concern. Mines have gone up, having 3 kids that are working from at home, all using laptops.
So if you had to give Light and Power some advice right now, you know that they're obviously getting into renewable energy. To help us, what can they do? Because they've mentioned a number of different things, even talked about financing, I guess, to assist customers, maybe with the renewable energy projects. Should they maybe approach, say, a big supermarket to see if they can take them off the grid 100%, sell the energy back to the Light and Power? I mean, would this help a supermarket not put up their prices if a supermarket didn't have to pay electricity bill? I mean, I'm trying to figure out what else can they do. They've mentioned a number of things, which I will find here and I would itemize, if I can, of reasons why they had to go this route, that they had some other things on the table, and that the company submitted the CETR application to the Fair Trading Commission. This is a clean energy transition rider, and that they're waiting for the Fair Trading Commission to get back to them. They also mentioned other things, that there are other mechanisms that they are looking for to seek approval, and they are claiming that these approvals are still with the various agencies, and that they are now been told, or has been recommended, that they go for a rate increase. What else does Light and Power need? I don't know.
One word, I would say education, educate the public. Mm-hmm. You know, Joy, before we install any renewable energy system, one of the things we ask persons to do is to conduct a basic energy audit. So you might find that, for example, you're like, Bill, you may say that you require a 5 kilowatt, but after you make some behavioral changes and probably look at this, as you may recognize that you need a system. Educating the public and even educating some of your large users for markets, gas stations, cooling facilities, chilling facilities, things like that, do a lot of refrigeration, fast food, in terms of using, for example, smarter pumps, or using things like variable frequency drives. And I don't want to sound persons here. Variable frequency drive is just a controls how we operate. Recently, the oil company, and it was part of on that project, looked at revamping the whole energy system at the gymnasium. And one of the things that we looked at is that the gymnasium had a system that when the air conditioning works, the energy spikes high. And the chairman there, Mr. Fingles, said he had a concern with that. There was a recommendation by Mark Hill to use capacitor banking. That's all the technology. When we came in there, we made a recommendation to use variable frequency drives, because pump starts, and this is some things that they need to educate the large powers, is that there's a spike or there's a demand, and that surge in demand increases your kVA. Interestingly, is that when kVA increases to that spike, you are charged at that rate for the rest of the month, or at that particular, although that spike only lasts just a couple seconds.
So wait. So let me see if I can understand. You have a surge in your spike in your electricity. It could be for a few seconds, and you're charged in at the highest rate.
And yes, it's recorded at that highest charge, at that high spike demand for your kVA demand, and so in order to mitigate against that, that is why you were part of that program that put in variable frequency. That when the pumps start, like the pumps is sort of what we call you have a slow start, it ramps up, so you don't have that spike, and that therefore you have a lower kVA demand. So persons within the large power industry, for example, air conditioning, supermarkets, these persons, there's a lot of heating and cooling, can look at bringing the energy or be educated their staff or the maintenance technicians. How can I reduce my energy? Technology that helps to curb things like kVA demand and pump startup air conditioning units, and that is what we are doing with the gymnasium. Not only did we revamp the entire gymnasium so successfully and completed, but we also looked at how could they reduce kVA demand by installing equipment that can mitigate against these large spikes. And that is what I think Light and Power could do by educating persons a lot more, especially large power industries.
Well, I found it when I was asking about what can they do, and I talked about maybe encouraging supermarkets and the financing that they said they would like to offer. It says there another initiative that would alleviate the impact of fuel prices on customers, the individual said from the Light and Power, was the planned customer energy savings finance program. That program would take place through a company's planned integrated utility service model or on billing finance program that would see householders and business operators seeking to implement major renewable energy and energy efficiency initiatives doing so through a loan facility from the utility company. So it sounds like they also put in this application to the regulators, probably wanting to set up like a finance company too as well that would then assist. Now, how does that still help me or you? Even if you finance the supermarket energy bill goes down, but the supermarket got paid back. The supermarket can still send it to me. So, so I'm just saying that it's not that we don't want to be fair. And I certainly, I think Light and Power is a great company, but I don't think it's the right time. And I think that a lot of people would back me and you, and might have said that in the House, in Parliament, and let me commend the MP, can't remember the area, but his name is Mr. Ralph Thorne. He's MP as well, and he was in Parliament, and I got a piece of it, and he really landed into the Barbados Light and Power and truly represented his people and the people in this country about that price hike. And we need to hear more people coming out like Ralph Thorne and myself and yourself and 130,000 customers by saying, no, you cannot get a rate increase at this time. But here's what you can do for us. Show us how to lower our bills. Tell us what light bulbs to buy. Tell us, push that campaign, because Nathan, is it not true that if your inputs are less, if your production is less, same thing for water. If you're not producing all of this water because your demand is low, people are lowering it, people are doing you a favor. Same thing would happen for light and power. I would like to think that the demand is less because you're teaching us. Again, I say this is not like Pepsi and Coke. Utility companies, your job is to show us how to lower our bills, not to increase it. But you got 30 seconds to wrap up and to tell us, or 1 minute, to tell us basically, your last words, and then we have to wrap up. Mm-hmm.
So I just want to highlight, I believe in education and educating the public towards energy efficiency and conservation. And I just want to highlight this that you mentioned about a program, the Barbados National Oil. I want to mention that some of the large power industries out there who may not have the capital inputs right now, is that the oil company is also has a finance program where if you have the roof space, if you have the area, they will actually foot the entire bill, and then from the revenue saved or the revenue generated from the renewable energy system, we would then use that revenue to offset the cost of the renewable energy system, and then you also get a royalty cost on it for about 8 to 10 years of the project. And after 8 to 10 years of the project, once the oil company recuperates their costs, their capital expenditure, then that project for the next 15 years belongs to you wholly and solely. So the National Oil Company already have that particular program, and the program is in such a way where there's actually no financial burden, not only to the residents, but also to large power users and persons within the industry. So that project is there. I am part of that project. We are pushing that project. So we look at, for example, energy conservation. We do an energy audit, and then we also look at the whole aspect of implementing renewable energy system. And then from the energy generated from it, then we offset our capital expenditure from it. And that program is a strong program at the oil company. And I will encourage persons who may not have the capital expenditure, supermarkets, restaurants, businesses, that you can also come to the oil company and look at doing a particular package like that.
Okay, and I realize I have a couple more, another minute. So I wanted to finish what I said before, that the companies actually are to encourage customers to use less. They're never to encourage customers to use more. The idea is not to be making all of this money by encouraging you to buy the wrong light bulbs, or Water Authority should not be encouraging you to use more water and to keep it running and to take longer showers, and they don't. But and Water Authority shows you the opposite. Light and power. Similarly, if we are going towards making sure that we lower carbon footprint by 2030 and I think carbon neutral by 2050, we need to make sure that we educate people as to how to do it different, and so that they can use less fuel, they can buy less fuel by shifting to the renewables bit by bit. And I think that's the conversation, and I think that if they had come to Barbados and said, listen, here we're going on, Bajans, when the light bill's too high, we need to do we need to do energy audits into your home, help the people lower their bills, and then maybe once you can get that under control, help us. You can then go for a price hike, if you understand what I mean, because we have been now educated, sensitized how to manage our consumption of energy. We know what bulbs to buy, we know what TVs to purchase. We're so accustomed now that it becomes like breathing, how to manage energy, how to save the planet, how to lower carbon footprint. They need to spend time telling us that. Then we could show them some respect by saying, look, you could get your rate increase now. That type of thing.
I agree with you 110%, Jordan. It felt like if you were sitting down in class with me in the energy management training that I did. In fact, that's the right approach whenever you're looking at energy management and energy auditing. You lower your footprint first, and then you look at putting in capital technologies as such. But you don't put in technologies and then have to do audit. You do an audit, you do energy conservation first, and then you apply for these things.
All right, Nathan.
Joy, you sound like an energy manager.
Well, I learned a lot from you, I must say. But I wanna thank you, Nathan. You always work so hard, and or should I say, you work hard, but you also work smart. And
Yes.
So we do have to take a commercial break, but I'm gonna end it here with you now by thanking you so much for coming. And we want to continue the conversation. So if you can promise me here publicly that you're going to come back, hopefully.
Yeah, I will.
Okay, good. And you might want to bring one or two other people from BNOC with you as well. So thank you so much, Nathan. Thank you. We'll be back after the break. Welcome back to Face It and Fix It. Before we end the show, earlier on, we did mention to you about some rapid antigen test self-testing that we've seen circulating for $13.50. The Best Dos Santos director, Dr. Sanjay Beckles, wants to make it absolutely clear that the laboratory has no knowledge of this, and they have not okayed this test. They have not approved this. So if you see this on social media, and it's right there on a screen, it is not approved for use. Any antigen tests, any PCR tests in this country, even if you are a laboratory, and a private laboratory, you must get clearance from the Best Dos Santos lab, the director, Dr. Sanjay Beckles. So please, people, if this is true, it has not been approved by the lab, so be very, very careful what you do. Yes, thank you so much. And if you hear me nodding, it's just my producers reminding me that the Ministry of Health, that falls under the Ministry of Health. So this message is in essence coming from the Ministry of Health as well. They have to approve along with the laboratory. So please be very careful what you see on the shelves. Don't just go by everything that you see on social media. I want to thank you all very much for joining us. Thank our callers. Certainly thank all of our guests for coming on our show today on Monday. God willing, I will be here, and we'll talk to you some more, and we want to get more of your calls. Okay, and I've been told just now that we do have something I have to bring to your attention, that we recognize that some people have been messaging us after the show, in particular me, and we want to encourage you. The show is for you. Let's just start there. The show is for you. We bring on agencies so that they can explain what is happening on their end, what they're doing different, what they're doing better. But we expect to hear from you. If it's your light bill, water bill, NIS payment, if it's your house that you're waiting on, repairs, all of those things. And I welcome, yes, your calls and your WhatsApps. But I'm only one person. This is why the whole team is here with Peter, Aline, and everybody. We've all set this up for you, Barbados. It's called Face It and Fix It. So we want to spread the work around with all of the team so that they can send it to the agencies for you. So if you call me after the show, which I don't mind, I love to hear from people, but I'm better off helping you if you can share that information by WhatsApping 228-5562 or calling 228-5562 or 228-5563, or even sending a message on our Facebook page to CBC, type in CBC Barbados and put your information there. So we do want to help, and we thank the people who help behind the scenes, and we do follow up on the calls that we get outside of the show. But I'm asking you, Barbados, don't be ashamed. Call us, let us know what the problem is, what you want fixed, so that we can encourage these agencies to face it with you and have it fixed. So that is why we do this show. We do it for you. I'm looking forward now to our November, December promotion. I won't talk too much about it, but we will be repairing 2 homes, wooden wall homes through the show. So please stay tuned, listen for the details in days to come. We will be repairing 2 homes in this country through Face It and Fix It. I do believe that my time is coming down, and I want to thank you once again. Again, please do not buy things off the shelf that you know nothing about relating to COVID-19 and testing. My name is Joanne Haigh. This has been Face It and Fix It. Have a wonderful weekend. Until we meet again, God bless.